Good evening. My name is Dr. Joan Horton, and I'm one of the organizers of WTM, or Wellness Through Mindfulness. And on behalf of WTM, we warmly welcome you to tonight's presentation. WTM is a group that we started in 2015. Leslie, myself, and a group of other physicians and social workers and psychologists felt that there was a need for this as a free community for Calgary, and so we meet the first and the third Thursday of the month. We are meeting in person only now, and then recording it to the cloud for people to watch. We aim to freely provide teachings about mindfulness and related topics. We do have a website, which is probably something you're familiar with. It's wtmthebreathproject.org. There's animated videos on that if you haven't seen them about meditation and multiple interviews with mindfulness with expert teachers. And then on our wtm.thebreathproject.org, it has information about our upcoming WTM events and videos of previous talks where tonight's will be hosted, written summaries of some of the talks, mindful musings by Phil and others, and a lot of resources. We really encourage you to sign up on the WTM website to receive our notices if you want to be aware of what we're offering. And so you can go to the WTM homepage to sign up, and then we'll include you on our email listserv. The structure of the evening, we begin after this introduction, and it's a didactic session with an experiential starting at about 10 after 7, going to 8 o'clock, followed by a question and answer until 8:30. And during the Q&A, everyone will have an opportunity to ask questions related to the topic presented tonight, or in general, related to mindfulness or meditation. We want to have a disclaimer related to the question and answer. These sessions are provided strictly with the intention to provide education. It's not a forum intended to deal with specific personal issues that one might have. Wellness Through Mindfulness and the participating speakers aren't a substitute for professional care. Please ask questions pertinent to this evening's topic or a mindfulness-related question. We are recording this session, and it is in process now. The evening will be recorded, and the recording will be available a week from this evening. And bear this in mind, please, if you don't want to be recorded if you ask a question. However, you will not be identified by name when you ask your question, and we won't be videotaping you. The camera will remain here. We function through donations. WTM events are freely offered, and the committee is a nonprofit, volunteer-led group. We don't have any costs associated with our speakers at all. They all give freely of their time repeatedly to bring you these valuable teachings and experiences. However, to continue delivering these twice monthly, we do have expenses. We do have to pay a hall rental, which the Shakeneck Community Association has kindly waived for us, but it's normally $60 an evening. Plus, to keep our website, we have to pay somebody to do that website on a monthly basis, and all our meetup fees and all of those sorts of things. So it's about $500 a month that we need to fundraise in order to cover our expenses. And I'm the treasurer, so that's why I know all that. They are a reality. And we've gone into the red over COVID, and to keep it going, we really want to make sure we think this is important. To keep offering you these events, we need your donations, and we hope that you'll give us $5 or more, but anything will help make a difference for us to keep us going. There's a donation basket on the counter there, and we also have a button to donate on the homepage. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge this territory in which we are meeting with a specific territorial acknowledgement. I acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation, Alberta Region 3. Our COVID policy is that we all care deeply about your health, and I'm sure you care about each other. We invite you to make the choice that's right for you while attending our events in person with the following considerations. If you're feeling unwell, please don't attend our live events, but you're here now. And if you were unwell and you wanted to wear a mask, by all means, please do. And if you are concerned, please wear a mask. It is a responsibility for each of us to determine our own risk, and we don't assume responsibility for any incidents or of contracting COVID. after attending the event. Regarding sharing, in an attempt to encourage our community to grow and provide a discussion forum, we have introduced a sharing section on our website. Please enter any questions related to the presentation or your own mindfulness practice and meditation practice. You can access that through the WTM homepage, wtm.thebreathproject.org. And it is a monitored forum where all questions are vetted before the information is posted. With regards to cell phones, I've put mine on silent, so I hope you all will do a buzz too. And then with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker tonight. It is my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Dr. Leslie Ellestad, who I've known for a long time. Yes. And I'd like you to know that she's just a newly retired family doctor. So,
and I'm not going back.
We're talking about retirement and how you manage it. She had a private practice here in Calgary for 35 years.
Wow.
She is now very happy being a grandmother of 3 kids, and she's replenished by being active outdoors. She began her meditation practice in 1998 and has studied in the Tibetan, Insight, and secular meditation traditions. She's inspired by the benefits of long-term meditation practice. Combining her understanding of traditional meditation training, neurobiology, and psychology, she enjoys sharing the practice with those who are interested. She teaches and supports the development of practice opportunities through the Yoga MCC and WTM. Recent retirement is providing the opportunity for more simplicity and ease in daily life, and this is supportive of her interest in the study and practice of meditation and yoga. Please join me in welcoming Leslie.
Well, it's very nice to be here with you. Phil made the decision to stop doing hybrid to encourage more people to come, and it feels lovely to see all of you. It makes a big difference when we're together in person. So this evening, as you saw when you decided to come, I'm going to talk about 5 different ways we can increase our freedom from stress. And so we're going to start with the meditation using these techniques, and then we'll have the talk, sort of delving into them a bit further. So before we start, I wanted to just see a show of hands. How many of you have never meditated, ever? Anyone? Okay, then we can go for an hour, right? No, we'll do somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, if that's all right with you. If I hear a lot of restlessness, I know we've gone long enough. But I thought it's really worth doing it in a group, because the group energy really supports our meditation practice. So since we've bothered to get here, we'll try to do a good session of meditation. And so to prepare ourselves for meditating, I wanted to read a passage from a poem by someone I hadn't heard of, but I Wikipedia'd him. His name is Jerome K. Jerome, and he's from Britain. And he was a writer and a playwright, and he wrote this, which helps to prepare us. Come away from the din, come away to the quiet fields over which the great sky stretches, and where, between us and the stars, there lies but silence. And there, in the stillness, let us listen to the voice that is speaking within us. So as we're preparing to meditate, just reflecting for a moment on our own capacity for wisdom. And that is what we're going to be listening to within ourselves as we meditate, our own natural capacity for wisdom. So we'll start, as we often do, with sitting in our chair and noticing our body. And it's best to bring ourselves a little bit forward from the back of the chair. If you are leaning against the back of the chair, just keep it very light. The feet on the ground, And hands either on our thighs or on the lap. And then sensing the steadiness of the chair and the earth underneath us, and allowing our body to rest into this steadiness. The main points about posture are to have support so that you're not working to sit, and to have an upright spine. So checking in with your spine. Can you hold it a little more upright, with dignity, confidence? And then our heads are floating on top of the spine. Chin is slightly tucked. And checking in with the front of the body, relaxing the muscles in the face and in the belly. And then noticing that we are breathing. Resting attention on the breath. Following the breath all the way in and all the way out. And depending on how busy your mind is, you may want to count your breaths to help to support settling. And one method is to count up to 10 and then to start over again. And as the body and the breath settle, noticing how the mind is. And this evening, we're going to invite patience, general attitude of patience. Patience in accepting things as they are now. Patience in knowing that this practice is a long-term practice. The results evolve over time. So patience is needed. So inviting this attitude. I will be here with how things are. And continuing to keep the body and the breathing as an anchor. Because it is very normal to get distracted. Using the anchor to settle when we discover that we are distracted. And then, because we're doing mindfulness meditation, if something strong arises, body sensation, an emotion, flurry of thoughts or stories, we have the option to allow our attention to include this experience in our practice. We're not trying to shut it down through attention on the breath of the body. And the first step with this patience in the mind is to let whatever arises be. Let it be just as it is. We're not turning our attention toward it yet, but we are accepting it into the field of our attention. Much like if you were a kindergarten teacher and you wanted to help the kids settle, you would just let them come into the room, be calm, relaxed, not pay any one person too much attention, just let people come in as they are. The shy ones, the boisterous ones. Staying steady. No need to change anything. Just letting everything be just as it is. And sometimes we'll notice if we allow things to be, they get quite quiet. They just, in a sense, they let go. And then we return to the breath, a patient mind. And then at other times, when we let something be, it gets bigger. It wants more attention. And so then the next step is to turn our attention toward the visitor and shine the light of our patient, warm attention on the visitor. Look at it more closely. Become intimate with it. I see you. I am here with you, just as you are. Notice the changes that are happening. It's a body sensation or an emotion, thinking. Notice it's changing. It's not staying the same. And again, this interest may have an effect on the visitor. It may result in letting go, that it dissolves, gets smaller, or it may expand and ask for more from you. Now that you're paying attention, it really wants to express itself. And then it can be helpful to have some options. One of the options, if the experience is getting more than you feel you can stay present with, is to do a series of steps to create a little bit of space or distance from the experience. The first step is to name the experience. So if it's an emotion, maybe there's some fear or some wanting, some uncertainty, irritation, whatever, or body sensation, you can say just a whatever it is. In my case, just a body sensation. And even further distancing can be to say, everything is passing. And then finally, the option to disidentify. This experience is not me, not myself, not I. Just an experience in the body, or just an emotion, not mine. And then we have the option to bring in some form of love with whatever's arising, even if it's that we're just settled on the breath, some form of love, the basis of which is loving kindness or friendliness. So, inviting a friendly heart. And if it's helpful and there's a strong experience in the mind, we can direct this loving interest to whatever experience is arising. I see you and I care for you. I welcome you. I bring kindness to you. And then the final step is to open to spaciousness, feeling the space all around you, and whatever's arising in the body and the mind, allowing it to unfold and move as it will within the space of your own mind and body. Okay, so we've been sitting for quite a while, and you're welcome to move around and stretch, and you can stand up if you feel the need. And we'll begin again in another minute or so. So if you like to keep track, that was about 25 minutes. Close your rings on your meditation. You haven't got that ring activated. So I'll begin the talk now. And again, I'm inviting you to listen with your own wisdom. You already know a lot of things, and you're just here to enhance through learning what is natural to you, but can be developed. So as we travel along this path of meditation, we will naturally experience challenges, and meditation can be very pleasant and help us settle and relax, but it also can bring up various challenges. They are traditionally called the 5 hindrances. That's one way to look at it. And if you have heard this teaching before, it's always worth repeating because they will repeat themselves. So they are unskillful desire, unskillful aversion, and restlessness and worry, sloth and torpor, and what's called skeptical doubt, which is where you doubt that you can do the practice or that the practice works. So these will recur throughout your years of meditation, but gradually the practice thins them out so they're less prominent and less troublesome. So the practice that I presented today is one way to deal with those struggles that everybody has. There's nothing abnormal about having those experiences. It's part of being a human being to want some things and not want other things. That's what leads to the struggles that we have. And that will be expressed through our body sensations, our emotions, our thoughts, and our more complex stories. That's how these challenges will present themselves. And so we need different techniques to deal with that. And that's what we did through our practice. So to repeat, they were patience, which is a general attitude of mind. So we settled the body, we settled the breathing, and then let our mind open and then invite this quality of patience into the mind. How many of you feel like you're already a pretty patient person? That patience is one of your strengths? Yeah, 3. Okay. How many of you feel that meditation has helped you become at least more aware when you're not being patient, that's a problem? Yeah, so this is an issue for most of us. I would say for me, it's been one of the biggest benefits of being a meditator is I've become more patient. In fact, sometimes I'm too patient. So there is a dark side to patience, which is you don't take care of things because you're just waiting. So yeah, combine that with retirement. Yeah, it can go too far. So this grasping and resisting are long established. If you haven't noticed, they are inherent to you yourself and everybody you know. They're reinforced by our conditioning, which is our family conditioning and our schooling, our social environment, where we grew up, how we grew up, events that happen to us may affect us, and our culture affects our conditioning. Also, of course, our temperament, what we were like when we were born. If any of you have anything to do with children, whether they're your own or someone else's, you know that children are born with a set of ways of being. My 2 children are very different from each other, and each of my grandchildren are different from each other, and they have been since they were born. So what is patience? It's really about accepting things as they are. with no expectations of them being any different. And having the intention to be with them as they are, not just sort of accepting them, but all being with them as they are. There's no expectation and there's also no resentment. And if there is expectation and resentment, then we're patient with that. So you can keep going up another level. Yes, I want to be patient, but I feel like I'm expecting something or I don't like what I've got. Well, will we be patient with that? We're not looking backward. We're not looking forward. We're just here now with how things are. And we know within ourselves that pushing and pulling to get a different result is not worthwhile. So we are convincing ourselves as we examine patients that it really is a good quality to have. And then what is letting be? In the way I'm looking at it and introducing it, it can be introduced different ways, but letting be is letting something enter into our awareness without like a specific thing. I took patience as being a general attitude, whereas letting be is seeing what's there, a specific experience, such as a body sensation or emotion during meditation, and not turning our attention to it yet. We're just letting it kind of enter and just peacefully being present, but not moving our attention to like really focus on it. And I use the analogy of a kindergarten teacher, and maybe that's not, I'm not a kindergarten teacher, so maybe that's not a good thing to do if you're a kindergarten teacher, but I did have a very sensitive child. And I once actually had to take him to the hospital with me. I was delivering babies at that point, and I had to go examine a mother, and I didn't have any option where to take him. I think he was about 4 years old, and he was shy and sensitive. And this very wonderful nurse who's very outgoing and friendly and warm just sort of rushed at him to be kind and welcoming to take care of him while I went in as the patient. And he just exploded into tears and running away. That wasn't the right style for him. He was more somebody who, like, you just like, oh, you're over there. I'm over here. Don't worry. I'm not going to look at you. And yeah, so some of us are like that. We don't know. And then there might be a boisterous child who really demands your attention. But at first, can we just let them be and see what we're dealing with? And the same with whatever enters our mind. One of the first steps to do is to let it be. And then to observe, is letting be enough for this? Is it enough for me just to let it be there and then it just settles down on its own? We can move back to our breath, paying attention to our breath in our body. Or is this particular experience asking for more from us? And then we make the decision to move our attention toward whatever's arising, and that's called interest or examining more close, becoming like in our mind, we're going closer to it, we're becoming more intimate with it. And this interest is a great quality to have, especially if we tend to get restless or we tend to get bored, because the cure for boredom is interest. And so if you're ever a person who struggles with boredom, then you need to find something to get interested in to allow the boredom to dissolve away. And hopefully you choose something skillful, to something that's helpful to you, that's not a unhealthy distraction. So then with interest, the next step is once we've, and I'll go into that more in detail later, but right now we'll proceed then to beyond interest would be some form of love. So interest is more of a brain thing. If a person has depression, they often have a lack of interest in their life, and that seems to come from norepinephrine, I believe is the chemical that expresses it. Whereas if a person has a feeling of a lack of heart, a lack of warmth, that's more to do with oxytocin. And so different chemicals express these are ways that these messages are passed to our brain. And so we have this other tool. Besides interest, we also have some form of love, which the most basic form of it is kindness or friendliness. And then there's all sorts of variations on that, which you may have heard of before, such as compassion, which is the wish that suffering ends, joy, which is celebrating happiness, gratitude, which is being thankful for what we have, and a kind of steady acceptance, which is called equanimity. I have some others listed. Let's see. Yeah, well wishing is another way to look at. And all of these qualities can be brought into our meditation practice and kind of experiment. What does this particular experience, what supports this experience being something that I can be with? That's the basic thing. We want to be able to stay present with the experience. And then the last feature that we worked with during the meditation was spaciousness. And one of the easiest ways I find to connect with spaciousness is just to recognize I'm in space. So just allowing the meditation to include the experience of being in a room with space in it. And that helps the mind to open. Another way is to kind of stretch your mind. So you're there meditating and then you imagine a point miles and miles above you and points miles and miles on the right and the left and below you, and then allow your mind to just expand and stretch. And the reason this is important is because whatever's arising it's beneficial to have a lot of space in the mind so that it can naturally unfold and unwind. This can lead to release, which is also called letting go. And letting go is a very important movement of the mind as we're moving towards what's called freedom or a liberated mind or awakened mind. So the process of meditation over many years frees us from stress and struggle within our body and our mind. And all of these qualities help to support that gradual process. So in order to feel encouraged about our capacity for letting go, it's important to recognize we're doing it all the time. And why are we doing it all the time? Because lots of times we don't get what we want. If you hadn't noticed, you live in Calgary. We are heading into winter. It might not be so much what you want, but you've had to learn to let go of the fall and the summer. And it's a gradual process. It's getting dark, and most of us have a like, oh, here it comes kind of feeling, but then we let go of our preference. And not everybody prefers summer. My son doesn't like summer. It's too hot. But most of us tend to have a little bit of a preference. So we get up in the morning and remember that it's heading towards winter. It's darker out. Did we have a good sleep or didn't we? Are we rested? Are we looking forward to our day? How are we feeling? It might not be our best self that wakes up in the morning, but we let go and we accept, okay, this is how I am. We go into the kitchen. We have our favorite breakfast cereal, but the cereal box is empty. Oh, we have to let go of our preference. Or, our partner ate all the bananas and that's our favorite fruit. And so we have to then let go of that fruit is not available this morning. But the coffee's good, so we've got that. And we don't have to let go, but maybe we have to let go of grasping at having a second cup of coffee because we have to get on with our day, whatever our day is. So we're constantly having preferences that that life doesn't quite meet. So one of the first steps is to recognize that you're already pretty good at this. Most of the day you're doing a lot of letting go. And you might want to think about what is your next step after breakfast. For some of us, it might be leaving the house and going somewhere to work or to school. Or it might be, for me, I'm retired, so now it might be going from the kitchen to the living room. So whatever you're doing, there is something next. And sometimes it's what you want, and sometimes it's not what you want. And so you need to be prepared to accept it as it is. Yeah, right now it's the sidewalk is icy, right? And okay, how am I going to deal with that? Not such a big deal, but it can be if you're 75 years old and you've broken a hip before. That can be a really big deal. So you have to deal with all of those things. And as I went through in the meditation, sometimes letting be is good enough. We don't have to do anything more than let something be, and it settles down on its own, and we're back into a fairly steady, peaceful kind of meditation space. Other times we need more tools, and we have to have skills to deal with it. But gradually, as we become a better and better meditator, this process of letting go becomes something that happens on its own more and more, that we are not the conductor of the letting go process. And this is as our awareness becomes freer and freer, it in itself frees our clinging. We are not the agents of change. So before we go further into the steps, I'm going to go back towards particularly interest. There are two sides to the suffering of clinging, and they are the suffering of the things we're clinging to and the suffering of the clinging itself. So one of the easiest ways to look at the suffering of things we're clinging to is consider addiction. Addiction is a severe form of clinging where it becomes very difficult for a person to manage not doing the thing that they are addicted to. And I don't think the chemistry is as simple as dopamine, but it's involved that there's a dopamine shot every time you do the thing that you're addicted to, and it's very pleasurable. And when that thing goes away, the dopamine level falls and you feel a thirst for the thing that you were missing. And so this is obviously destructive. We probably all have been touched by an addiction, either in ourselves or in people who we're close to. In my family, there was some alcoholism, and it's destructive to relationships. This is destructive to health. It's just destructive to work, and ultimately, it can also cause you to lose your life, so people can die from alcoholism. That's how bad addiction is, and we certainly know it's a big problem in our society right now with opioids. That is addiction. So the grip of that, obviously, the thing itself is destructive, but then there's also the unpleasantness of wanting. And so it can be helpful to do a body experience of gripping or clinging. So I would invite you, if you feel comfortable doing it, to clench your hand and just feel the change in the way your hand feels when you clench it. It becomes one block. There's just one firm block of sensation. It's kind of unpleasant. And is there a desire to release it, or how are you feeling about it? In my case, I'm kind of getting tired of it, and I'm going to let it go and invite you to do the same. But notice how it doesn't, in my case, it doesn't really uncurl that easily. It kind of feels stuck. It's got a memory of the clenching and clinging that I just did. And then you may want to intentionally open it. And then take your other hand and just kind of caress the palm of your hand. Give it some kindness through touch. Maybe moving your breath into your hand. And then letting your hand rest wherever it wants to be. And what do you notice about sensations in your hand when your hand is more relaxed and more rested? How has it changed from when it was clenched? You may notice that there's more variety of sensations, more refinement of sensations in your hand when it's relaxed and open. And this is a metaphor for what happens as we let go, as we have less clinging. We become more sensitive to the finer experiences. It doesn't mean we don't have sensations and emotions and so on, but we are more able to see the qualities of them and more able to meet them with less discomfort, more ease. And some people say that we develop a deeper and fuller inner life is the outcome of meditation. It may not be so easy to define it as easier, but that it's deeper and fuller and richer. You would still, of course, experience grief if you had a major loss, but it would be manageable because it would be true to what experience we are having. There tends to be more capacity for presence, for clarity, for kindness, compassion, joy, and for peace. I wanted to also touch on letting go that is skillful and letting go that may not be so skillful. And you hear this word a lot in the Buddhist tradition I'm trained in is when something's skillful, it means it's good for you and other people. And when it's unskillful, it's not. Um, so some of the things that people can do when they have a meditation practice is think that they should let go of everything. They should, and some people do and become monastics. But still, monastics need a place to live. They need shelter, food, clothing, and medicine. And so do we. So just because you found meditation doesn't mean you don't have to take care of your life. You can't. It's not a cure for being a human being and living. You still need to take care. And particularly relationships can be something we mistakenly think, well, I don't need these relationships. Relationships may change, but they're still important. And meditation will not cure you of needing people. I was going to mention also that there are some other things that we tend to latch onto as being cures for the human condition, and fame is one. You may have heard many famous people say, I found out it wasn't actually the cure I was hoping it was. I was hoping it would be. And in fact, fame can be a burden because you get chased by paparazzi, etc. Accomplishments are fine as long as we don't cling to them. So perhaps you've already experienced that. It took me till I was about 40 to go, okay, actually winning that 10K race was not the cure. It just felt horrible, and I don't feel better after doing that. So it's still fine to go in 10K races, but why are you doing it is the question. One of my relatives has a 40-year-old daughter who just had a baby, and the husband is still doing training for Ironman competition. And she said, enough already. You're 45. Who cares if you win the Ironman? Well, that's one way to look at it. But she thought he should be paying more attention to his wife and his baby. And maybe he should be. I wonder about that. Another example of where clinging to something that ostensibly could be seen as healthy can be problematic. So one of them is eating healthy food. And this can be quite a thing amongst meditators because they tend to be focused on good nutrition. But we can also become obsessive in an unhealthy way about what we eat. And I don't know if I dare tell this joke, but have you heard the one about how do you know someone's a vegan? They'll tell you within 2 minutes of meeting them. Oh. Being driven in our work can be a problem, that we don't keep our life in balance. We neglect our health and our family due to work. Okay. So we've reached 8 o'clock, and I want to open it up for reflections or questions about what we've talked about and what we've done this evening. I have more material if there's no questions, but I think it's good to give an opportunity for that. How was the meditation practice?
It's really good. I can't believe it was 25 minutes.
Yeah, good.
I felt literally in there 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. Amazing.
Good. Which experiences predominated? Were you more having body sensations, emotions, thoughts? Lots of thoughts? Yeah. Yes.
I felt like my brain was so weird.
Yeah. Can you say more about that?
It's just as if I wasn't here. It's like levitation of the brain.
Okay. So it kind of felt like you were leaving your body? Or
No, my brain is here. My body, I mean my body is here.
Yeah.
And I breathe. And was breathe. But on some ones I felt like my head is spinning, but not spinning.
So some movement in the mind. Yeah, as long as you can stay in your body, I think that sounds fine. But it sometimes can happen that people are not staying in their body, and that isn't helpful for developing your meditation practice. So keeping on coming back to your posture intermittently can be helpful. I'm just observing what's happening now. I'm spinning. Yeah, there is an unwinding process, an actual physical unwinding. So maybe you were getting some unwinding. We have that expression, oh, I just need to unwind. Lie down on the couch and unwind. And that's part of what's happening. It's the energy system embodying, it's letting go, releasing. Because we have a lot to deal with. How did you do with having, how was the suggestion for including patience? What was the impact of that?
It's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially having like a lot of strong emotion come up,
Mm-hmm.
feeling like slightly overwhelming.
Yeah.
Just being able to let it do what it's going to do.
Mhm.
Pass.
That could be very helpful. Good. Does anyone want to say anything about any emotion that arose for them? What it was like, what it felt like in the body? Probably someone else felt the same thing. That can be a little revealing. Yes.
For a short moment, I had a sensation of wanting to cry, not sadness, not sadness, not happiness. Neutral.
Okay. Neutral with tears.
Relief. Relief.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
The space part. When you said the space,
Yes.
yeah, I felt like I was sort of floating.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
Good.
I do a lot of meditation, but the space part, I have to start combining that with it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Same. It was just,
Yeah.
I never thought about just space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the somatic part of it, when you first start, when you're sitting in your chair, feel yourself being held, by earth, right? And it just helps me to relax that much more. It's just beautiful, actually.
Good. Yeah, the earth and space are here all the time.
Yeah.
I felt the concept of patience gave me permission to shut down my busy head, because I find if you have trouble sleeping, sometimes you're problem solving without being able to control it that well. And patience is a good way to kind of approach that. I like that word.
Yeah.
Give myself permission to just let it breathe.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel as necessary to come up with a solution for all those things that go by.
Good. Yeah. I have gone to meditation retreats where I just put patience as the first thing. Like sometimes you're intentionally cultivating calm, but before you can get to calm, you have to be patient with what's actually there. And then just inviting patience led to calm, which is what I think you're saying as well, that it calmed your thoughts down. Yeah. What about the suggestions around distancing yourself from your experience? That was in the interest category. One of the ways to use interest is to go closer, to become more intimate with what's arising. And another way is to take a step back and kind of be the watcher of whatever experience is arising. I often forget that one, but it can be very helpful. Any reflections from anyone on that movement away of being the observer?
I found it helpful because my tendency is to attach meaning to whatever it is that's troubling me, especially when you're meditating. So that helped me spaciousness. That helped me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I find that when I'm restless in the mind,
Uh-huh.
if I can put a question to myself, like what is happening now, why is this coming up, or whatever I ask myself, then there is automatically a distancing.
Yeah. So a kind of investigative question. What is happening now?
And then the counting, because counting really focuses my attention on breathing versus just letting it go back and forth and back and forth.
Yes. Yeah. What method of counting do you like?
It was 1 to 7. 1 to 10 you said, but I went to 7 and then back again to 1 to 7.
Your lucky number. At the retreat I went to in September, she suggested to count to 100.
Wow.
And then she said, I think the other teacher said something about how long can you stay present. And so I thought, I put the two instructions together and I counted to 300. And I told her I could only get to 300. And she said, no, I meant count to 100 and then stop counting.
I think what happens is when I get distracted and I stop back at one. So
Yes.
it's not method, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 7.
Yeah. And then there's a method where you can count to 10, and then the next time you count to 9, and then you count to 8, which helps keep you like that overarching focus, so you're not forgetting, because it can become kind of rote to count to 10. So this, oh, where was I? Yeah. And then what about the instruction on, yes?
Do you have a breathing method, like in through the nose, out through the nose, or nose, out through the mouth?
In mindfulness meditation, generally you have your mouth closed unless you have a breathing problem. You know, some people can't breathe through their nose. And you breathe through your nose, but you don't work it. In essence, you just breathe naturally. And you're just aware of your breathing or resting in your breathing. I've heard mindfulness meditation teachers instruct people to take maybe 3 deep breaths at the beginning of their practice just to get their body energy moving. But it's not part of mindfulness meditation to control your breath. Those meditation techniques are more part of other traditions. Like if you go to a yoga class, they call it pranayama, where they use breath techniques.
Basically just watching your breath?
Yeah, you're watching it, or you are your breath, or you're resting in your breath, or you're feeling your breath. There's different ways to connect with your breath, and it's good to experiment to see what works best for you. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask about the love instruction. I use the word love because it's very general. And of course, it can be confusing because love is also confused, or what we relate to romantic love or attached love to, like our family. But here I meant more like just the quality of good-heartedness, of well-wishing. How was that instruction for you? How did it affect your practice? Did you feel anything? I'm pointing at my heart just as a hint. Although it can come from elsewhere in the body.
Towards the people that
Yeah.
just the boy.
Yeah.
Sharing that.
Yeah.
With open ways to keep exploring that.
Mm-hmm.
When you say love, I always think of, like, I focus on the heart center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The heart.
Yeah.
Just right there. That's where that love of light.
Mm-hmm.
Holding it out.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about patience, but it was so powerful. I mean, the integration of patience there.
Mm-hmm.
Then for me, the other ingredients were like less present, let's say, less
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that patience will make a lot of impact on the
Mm-hmm.
So probably love was the one that I most struggled to feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my
Yeah.
there. And I also want to mention, this is pretty basic, but it was so quiet. I mean, probably because I'm kind of new to this practice that I would say that never felt this quiet environment. Beyond the air system, it was so nice to be that silent.
Mm. Yeah. Silence is really nourishing. Yeah.
Yes, I'm in an area where a lot of traffic and not enough silence, as you mentioned. I think that's a key part of the practice.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that I discovered through meditation is, well, I started to try to notice when I was feeling love. So maybe that could be a project for some of you, because often we are feeling love and we just don't recognize what it is. So it's often easiest to feel it for children. I don't know. I'm not a parent anymore, and I know it's a mixed bag being an actual parent. Sometimes kids drive you crazy, but grandchildren might be the thing, or your neighbor's kids. But just that natural warmth. Your pets might be something. Just actually notice how your heart feels when you're feeling friendly with, or friendliness is a form of love. Start to tune in. How am I actually feeling? And then one of my teachers called it bookmarking. Oh, that's what love feels like. And then you put a little bookmark in it, and then you remember. And when you go to practice love in your meditation, whether it's loving kindness or compassion, then you have a way of recollecting, oh, that's what that felt like. Or if you have a particular trigger for feeling love, like an image of someone who's easy for you to love, then you can recall them, and then the love more easily arises. And the reason this is a helpful tool in meditation is because love helps to soften up the clinging. One of the ways to get out of conflict is to bring kindness to yourself and the other person. And we notice how we can so quickly switch from thinking this is insolvable to somebody showing some kindness in the situation, and suddenly there's kind of like a lubrication between people that happens when we introduce some kindness. It's often not the only thing that's needed, but it is an ingredient that is needed for us to feel good. And I feel it here tonight because I have not been around this many people very much. I am retired, and so it feels wonderful, like just to be around people and people talking and sharing. So I think that's a manifestation of a form of connection, or you could call it love. And then any further comments about spaciousness? Anybody want to say anything about that element that was brought into the practice? I'm particularly interested in your experience already in your life of spaciousness. Can you describe a situation where you felt like the environment you were in was really helpful for you to know what spaciousness is? Whether outdoors or...
Yeah, share this. I've lived here for 30 years, and there's a picnic table over there in the park that I call God's table, because you can get up on it and you can feel like you're touching the sky, and it feels incredibly spacious, even in the heart of this busy city, because of the gully and all the green around you, and Abilene Creek down in the bottom of the gully. It just feels like this whole world is here in your thoughts.
Very nice description. Yes, and you can see that you're touched by that experience.
Mm-hmm. It's a great place to go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get trapped there at that table.
Giving away her secret place. Yeah, we happen to live in a place that has wonderful skies. I don't know what strikes you when you go away and then come back to Calgary, but it's always the skies that strike me. I don't think, maybe others of you have traveled to places that have bigger skies, but they're pretty big skies here in Alberta. And having that spaciousness is often a way to connect with something larger than ourselves, which is another way to free us from our self-concern. Going up on the hills in the north part of the city, what's that called? Nose Hill Park. Yeah, like you can just feel like you're gone. You've left the city. In fact, sometimes I get lost up there. And then I go, oh, there's downtown. I know which way to go. But it can feel like you're just in nature away. Okay. So maybe we'll end there. And, oh, yes.
I had a question about
Yes.
spaciousness. I actually had an experience at Nose Hill just this past week, sunrise and clouds and light, very beautiful. But sometimes, my days I can't get out there and I'm at work and maybe I can look out a window at the sky, but how do you access that spaciousness if you can't like get out into a natural place?
It can be challenging, like if there's a lot going on and a lot of demands on you. At the same time, one of the things I've done is take pictures I have them on my phone and just sneak a moment. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm actually going to look at my iPhone and look at a picture of space. So one way is to remind yourself actually visually of that experience and bring it to mind. And then the more and more your mind is trained to recall spaciousness, then it will be easier to do it on the fly without a stimulus for it. So that would be one way. And then another way is just to recognize the space in a room. So if we all just take a moment and come into a posture that we consider a meditation posture. And then keeping our eyes open with an upward gaze about 60 degrees. And if you look at the place where the ceiling meets the wall, that's usually about 60 degrees. And then allow your vision to include the walls on either side of the room, not just the wall in front of you, but the wall on the right and the left. So it's a soft gaze upward. And then when you're breathing, then emphasize the out breath. Not that you make it stronger, but that you pay more attention to the out breath. Remember the soft gaze, seeing all the walls, 3 walls, and releasing into the out breath. Letting your mind unfurl. Feeling space all around yourself. Allowing your mind to go up as high as possible, limitlessly, while you keep the same gaze. Just your mind is going, not your eyes. And going as far as possible to the right, maybe to Vancouver. And to Winnipeg on the left. And to Yellowknife behind you. And then letting go of all those concepts and just resting. And then allowing your gaze to come more a natural gaze into the room, taking in the chairs and the people in the room, and noticing all the space. There's objects, there's chairs and people and purses and backpacks, shoes, pictures, but there's space. All of that is in the room, is in space. And you can even extend this to going into your body, maybe with eyes closed. And noticing there's also space in your body. And then paying attention to sound. And noticing when the sound disappears. So the sound arises and then it disappears. Where does it disappear into? So I just invite you to open your eyes. So those are some of the techniques for connecting with space. And the one that's really useful when you're, in a meeting or in a room with people is just to notice the space in the room, not just the people, but also the space. So any questions about any of those instructions? Okay, Joan. Joan's
Thank you,
good.
Leslie.
I'm going to move this over to you.
Okay.
Well, we've had a good question and answer. So the 5 steps to freedom.
Mm-hmm. So we started with patience,
Patience,
letting be,
interest,
some form of love, and then spaciousness.
what was this?
Love.
Okay. I thought you said the thing before, love. Okay, so not that they're novel concepts, and thank you for bringing them to us. I think that we'll walk out of here, all of us, with a whole bunch of tools and ideas to incorporate into our practices. So the speaker next in 2 weeks. Actually, I didn't double check.
It's Nicole.
Okay.
Libin.
Nicole Libin is talking. I don't have it written down.
She's talking about overwhelm, I believe, how to deal with overwhelm. But I can look it up for you.
That's a good idea, so that we can tell people. 2 weeks tonight, Nicole Libin here.
Yeah. WTM.
Hopefully not too snowy. Bring your slippers next time because it might be even colder. Thank you. Leslie's going to the WTM very helpful website, and it is. And so it's an in-person meeting only, and it's called "When Everything Is Too Much: Tools for Pain and Overwhelm." So it's on the 16th here by Nicole Libin, PhD. Just to remind you of the importance of the donations. There's a basket there. We do rely on your donations in order to fund our efforts. And then we have the new sharing section on our WATM website. Those of you who weren't here for the beginning, you might want to check out our website and see what the sharing option is, especially if you have some feedback or issues that you'd like us to address. We'd love to have your guidance. And so this recording that we've had of this session tonight will be placed on the website in a week. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Drive home safely.